Hello and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords. My name is Catherine and I am your host. And if you haven't been here before, welcome. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I consider myself an alchemist, a little bit of a healer, a little bit of a modern mystic, and definitely somebody who is aligned with the cosmos. I love to get centered with energy of the cosmic connection that the collective is feeling, also energy that is happening and occurring at certain times in our lives. So we could be reflective on many things. What we are concentrating on today is a magical moment. It's a beautiful time, and it is a time that feels very divine. We are connected and we are moving forward with a total lunar eclipse, also known as a blood moon, and it is occurring in the sign of Virgo. It is happening right around March 14th to the 15th. Please check your local times where you are located, but it will definitely be seen in the northern hemispheres, where this energy will feel aligned with many people. What's interesting about lunar and that energy of lunar eclipses, it basically happens when the earth moves directly between the sun and the moon, casting a shadow, and the shadow is then on the moon, creating that energy of alignment that feels very driven towards movement and transformation. Many astrologers will tell you that eclipses isn't a time to create huge manifestations or intentions or maybe even rituals, but everybody lives their practices different, and everybody uses this energy different. In ancient times, a lot of people would fear the eclipses and would not want to see them, or they would think that something was going on with the moon that almost felt like a curse or a deepening energy that resembled some type of darkness. But the total lunar eclipse is a time where we definitely see the reddish hues of the sunlight refracting and reflecting onto the Earth's atmosphere. And it creates an energetic alignment that feels a little bit more centered about endings and revelations and also emotional breakthroughs. What's also interesting about this lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse blood moon, is that it is occurring in the sign of Virgo. And there has been so much energy around the divine and also the divine feminine. The Virgo is an earth sign, and it is centered around the energy of materials, of minerals, and movement of the earth's core. The Virgo is also known for the energy of domestication, the energy of duality. And when we are looking at the light and the shadow, that reflective piece really takes place of movement. We have to remember that the cosmos never really end. They never really sleep. The cosmic connection, even in the light, sometimes shows its value. And even though the sun might be out, that doesn't mean that the cosmic energy goes away, just like the shadow. Even though the light is occurring, it doesn't mean that the shadow has moved away from us and moved in an energy that doesn't feel aligned. But sometimes obstacles can happen, and sometimes there could be stressors or movement of obstacles and movement of strains, which could be physiological and also could be spiritual. When this happens, this is a time that we want to reflect and also sit in an area of silence. Sit in an area that feels less chaotic, especially if there's already chaotic energy occurring around us. And sometimes that's what occurs with eclipses. Many people might have turbulent times right now because of financial strains, sudden shifts, and the area of reality. And we have to remember that sometimes when all these challenges occur, that when we are on the area of spiritual growth, one of the best things to do is to acknowledge our own personal area of growth, acknowledging our own shadow. And if you want to look at more and you want to hear more about shadow work, I highly recommend you check out my podcast. I have quite a few that are centered solely on shadow work. There is a formulation to moving forward with shadow work. And some of it has to do with respecting the shadow, respecting the darkness within us, the energy that feels a little bit more dimmer and doesn't feel as vibrant as the moon. That subtle mystic, that subtle magic that sometimes feels unaligned when the energy is impactful, but is still significant. So let's look at the Virgo energy. This eclipse shines bright in the energy of Virgo, and Virgo is about health. It's also about routines and areas of organization, and that constellation usually brings us to release old habits and restructure our daily lives. And when I think about Virgo, I often think of the duality that it has, that energy of the cosmic goddess, the connection of the earth, the motherland, but also the energy that feels a little bit dark and hidden, which could be the dark feminine, the energy of sensuality, the energy of the forbidden fruit. And that might come out in ways where we unintentionally put this energy around shame, grief, or even downplaying our own magnetic purpose. Sometimes we tend to move in energies that just feel ritualist because we've been doing it so long. It's quite hard to break old habits, and this is what this total blood moon eclipse is allowing us to do, is to subconsciously and also consciously with self-awareness be aware that we can release these old habits, and we can also restructure our daily lives. We can also restructure the energy that might be surrendering us to our own emotions of grief, maybe shame, or energies that have been holding us down. It's like a tug-of-war effect. And sometimes to do that, we have to get right down and dirty in the facts of how it is that our emotion plays out with some of our activities. What's also interesting about this energy is it kind of feels like a karmic reset. We have to remember that 2025 is the energy of 9, and 9 is closing chapters, saying goodbye to old purposes. Right before this moon, we had the energy shift of quite a few planets and also quite of the few cosmic alignments. Right before the eclipse, we're going to have the Sun in Pisces conjunct Saturn in Pisces. And this energy feels very intertwined with our highest power and also our area of movement and emotional revelations. We have to remember that the Pisces is very conscious, but also could be very unconscious. It could be like that dreamlike state that doesn't allow us to really get the closure that we might need. It's almost like a karmic reset. The past practices and patterns might still be coming up and kind of tugging at our heartstrings, or as one might say, our areas of safety and movement that allows us to walk this earth in peace. And it's not peace with others, it's really peace with our own reflective purpose. We still have Mars in Cancer, which is all about the energy of feeling the obstacles. Mars doesn't like to be in Cancer. It is seen as the sign that feels like a tug-of-war. It feels like a challenge. It feels like that emotional piece that doesn't really let our intuition and the energy of the Pisces and our spiritual presence take way because the emotions are being drowned out. And that tug-of-war effect with the Virgo and the Pisces spirituality, the energy of reality here on Earth versus the energy of the cosmic alignment, might have us a little bit impulsive as we see this movement of transformation, not just asking us where are our challenges, but where are the challenges and obstacles with our environment of the everyday. That could be in work settings, that could also be in personal settings, and that could also be in the energy of home. And home is really our sacred place. It is our energy of movement around center, of alignment, of where it is that we feel safe, where it is that we feel secure. The signs that are going to be most affected with this total lunar blood eclipse, of course, is the Virgo, the Pisces, the Gemini, and the Sagittarius, which are mutable signs that are going to feel a major shift for change. It is also a time that we will look at where it is that we allow our decisions and our shadow work to ultimately move us forward towards certain breakthroughs. And when we look at what it is that we could do during this time, while we are not creating huge intentions, but being more reflective on the shadow and the energy of movement, I would say definitely do an emotional detox and even a physical detox as well. Because not only do we have this energy of Virgo and the energy of Pisces all being mixed together with the cosmic alignments, but the following day we are centered with a Mercury retrograde in Aries. And a Mercury retrograde in Aries could make our communication with others a little bit more centered around conflict, and also it could make us a little bit more, I guess you could say, mouthy or centered around an excessive throat chakra. But it could also make us feel and make us be perceived as a little bit egocentric, as the Aries is centered around really the identity of that interpersonal space. So we might almost feel like our energy is being analyzed over and over by others, and it might unintentionally make us be a little bit centered around negativity, and often that energy of the perfectionist coming through. So it's definitely a time to let go of emotional burnout and unhealthy routines. So doing an emotional detox really means clearing the energy. I would think of like an aura bath, maybe a ritual bath, definitely some grounding. I think grounding for this time is very, very important, especially as we have this connection with the moon being in Virgo and also with Pisces season. So if you can get out and do some grounding, even if you are comfortable and uncomfortable, it will make you get more aligned with that root chakra energy and also the crown chakra energy. We have to remember that sometimes uncomfortable grounding, and I've always get so much questions about uncomfortable grounding. Yes, uncomfortable grounding sounds exactly what it is. You're outside, you're a little bit uncomfortable. It could be cold, it could be too warm, it could be you just don't want to do it. And you're outside and you have your feet in the earth, you have your feet with the grass, you have the feet with the soil, and you just allow yourself 3 to 4 minutes to acknowledge you are uncomfortable, to acknowledge this is something that you don't want to do, to acknowledge that you are getting through this, and to acknowledge that your consciousness and your self-awareness knows how you feel, and you continued to pursue this challenge. You continued to pursue a new routine. So definitely look at that energy around emotional detox and physical detox as well, letting go of old habits and habits that might not be aligned with you. Also, it is a good time to look at the health of you, the health and the well-being of you, your daily habits, your areas around stressors, your areas around unexpected movements. And since this is in the area of Virgo, we see that energy of like domestication and also the area of career. the area of financial surprises and being tied down to the mother, right? The mother wounds and the mother movement of the goddess. So if you are somebody who has been having a shift with financial security, financial safety, financial surprises have just kind of like had so much movement towards you, right? And these unexpected changes or these unexpected movements have been bringing you stressors. This is definitely a time to clear that energy and subtly look towards making positive and small changes. If that means clipping coupons, if that means maybe creating a garden, if that means creating some type of revenue where it will help burden the financial strain. And I think this time has taught us a lot of lessons of how we have been centered around so much chaos in the external. And a lot of us unintentionally take it internally, but allowing what is occurring around us not to affect us eternally and not to affect the emotional space, even though there are challenges and even though the shadow is there, but kind of decluttering the excess. One of the ways that we can declutter our life is definitely by letting go of old materials and letting go of old processes, physically, emotionally, and mentally. During this eclipse, we're definitely going to listen to our body and focus on self-care and healing. This isn't necessarily like a time to create a huge intention, but to look more at the shadow of why our daily rituals have been affected. We're going to balance logic and also the energy of intuition. So we're going to take that energy of the logical Virgo, the energy of analyzation, and look at the energy of where it is that maybe our intuition has not met the logic, or vice versa. The Pisces often speaks the flow of the universe and the conscious space. So we're going to kind of look at that middle ground, that area of the consciousness, our dreamlike state, the energy of manifesting around our dreams, and also the reality base that the Virgo brings. We're also going to definitely be a little bit more conscious about decisions. We have to remember that a lot of people, and when I mean a lot of people, it's usually the modern mystics or the astrologers or some witches don't necessarily create huge intentions towards eclipses because they are seen as unstable. And when we have unstable energy, we're going to want to definitely wait before taking action. That's why many people, including myself, would love to do something that is a little bit more passive and centered around shadow work. Also, we are in the shadow state. We are in that energy of eclipses, the retrogrades. So having an eclipse in Virgo is that energy of trusting the unknown, of the divine. We have to remember that blood moon. The blood moon is that energy that feels aligned in movement, that is powerful, that is coming forward, that is centering us right before we hit spring equinox, the rebirth, the transformation before the growth occurs. The blood moon is a sacred unraveling of movements. It is the energy that bleeds the red sign of Virgo, which is known as the celestial goddess, the priestess, almost the immaculate healer, the healer of within, the weaver of the divine order. We shouldn't be centered on healing everybody when we have not healed ourselves. Allowing this eclipse to carefully begin to allow the threads of our canvas, the threads of our blanket, of our beautiful crochet project, of our area of our own quilt to be tightened. The universe does not ask for perfection, but what it does ask is that we take the time to put it in with ourselves, to put it into surrendering and understanding the energy of our own divine. I recently posted that anybody and everybody is somebody. And if we don't really believe that, we will hold ourselves at a place that feels dim, that feels that we are under the shadow. And if we don't acknowledge how beautiful we are, how poetic we are, how cosmic we are, how centered around the energy of the spiritualism, the energy of the spirit, the energy of the universe, sometimes our energy of our own mind will play the greatest tricks on us, and it won't allow us to take the steps of moving forward and what it is that we are really destined to live within. Also, the Virgo rules the body, the mind, and the energy of the analytics, which is a balance between us and the cosmic connection. While eclipses do bring that scent and that movement of chaos, it also sends us into an energy that feels aligned, of looking at the clarity of the shadow, the ridge of control, and trusting the unknown. It is definitely centered around karma and karmic releases, the order of reality and dreams. We have to remember that the nodes have done a shift, and this shift speaks in energies of movement, and it also speaks in energy of what it is towards our own personal strengths and also our own personal obstacles. During the time of the blood moon, we will also have the nodes aligned with the energy of the moons in the opposite in some ways. We have the energy of the North Node being in Pisces, and for this situation, it could be centered around us feeling aligned in our awakened space, the energy of rebirth to the spiritual connection. I often think that in the year of 9 that there will be so many secrets that come up, and we'll also be seeing where these old patterns kind of break, where people have been very much destined and also centered around spiritualism. And that's kind of what the energy of Pisces. And for those who know me, you know I consider Pisces like that water sign. That is the water walker, I love to call it, the Jesus sign, the energy of pouring into and cleansing our life spiritually and also cosmically. So when we look at what it is that we feel comfortable with, it will be centered around the South Node. The South Node right now is centered around the energy of Virgo, which is around the energy of movement in the home life. So if we're getting comfortable in habits and rituals that aren't feeding our purpose, it is time to definitely have a release and rebirth. One of the rituals that you could do during this time is list no more old habits that keep coming up and keep creating these toxic ties. And usually we see this in forms of relationships and also self-doubt. So it's definitely a great time to release and burn it, write it out, journal about it, whatever it is, understand where it is that the shadow meets these places, meets these movements, and meets these moments. You're also going to want to be centered around the energy of purity and cleansing the aura. Like I said, that could be an aura bath, or you could do a smoke cleanse. You could cleanse your space with rosemary, sage, or you could even take some time to do like a full-on movement towards I would even say like a detox, and I like to do physical detoxes as well, which includes like not eating processed foods, even though I try to eat whole foods frequently, but we're all human. We all, kind of indulge certain times. So definitely this would be a time that I would be a little bit more reflective, and depending on what your spiritual practices are, some of you might be practicing a Lent or Ramadan or different types of detox or fasting during this time. But if you are not in a religious base, then I would definitely do your own personal detox or your own personal energy of clarity, and also having that discernment where you allow the clarity to come forward and allow your own wisdom to acknowledge that you can give up something, you can detox from something, and you can still feel very, I guess you could say, very successful in that energy, even though it is not tied to a religious practice. You can use it as a spiritual practice. And when we do detoxing, it also allows the clarity and the wisdom to move forward, not only through the energy of the physical, through the feet, through the movement of the physical body, but also in the psyche as well, which is aligned with the Pisces. And we can use candles, to set up the mood for our energy of shadow work. So light some candles. I would definitely use energies around white candles, also energies around blue candles, and also root candles, which would be red. The chakras that are most affected with this lunar eclipse, blood moon, definitely is the root chakra, and even the throat chakra and the crown chakra. So those are the ones that I would be concentrating on the most, is the root chakra, the throat chakra, and the crown chakra. And then of course you can work with the other chakras as well, but look at the energies of shadow work around that time. Another thing that you're going to want to do is close the door. A lot of people close the door, say goodbye to huge manifestations, huge areas of intentions. Saying goodbye to that energy of always having an intention, always having a ritual, always having a spell, always doing that thing and allowing the silence to take place. So eclipses are mostly intended for shadow work and also releasing, not intention setting. So that's why it is very reflective, and it is very much centered on trust and surrender. And as the blood moon tends to move past this energy, we will let the acknowledgement of staying aligned with our own personal space and moving forward. We have to remember that with eclipses, we want to embrace both the shadow, the light, and also the movement, which is the shadow of ourselves. We are both the healer, the wounded, and we are also the energy of darkness and the creator and the destroyer. To deny that one is the other, or one is our other half, is to deny the truth, to deny that we are actually our true form. And our true form isn't perfect. Our true form is us. It has mishaps. It has that energy where it's not always perfect. It's not always perfection. It's us. It's our true form, our fears, our wounds, our hidden truths that the shadow has, and also our energy behind our light, our energy behind our wisdom, our gifts, and our clarity that allows us to grow. So allowing this energy to take place. Also, I would think of definitely writing a letter to your shadow self, to the area of what you have learned from yourself, what you have learned in that time of reflection. What have you learned? You can also take time to work on new areas of affirmations and gratitude. For instance, embracing all the energy of self, your light, your darkness, your mystic, your modern, your movement of your old soul. We are all a combination of these two energies, these two lights, the old soul, the new spirit, the new experience, also having reflections of the patterns of the past. So definitely take that time to look at what it is that is aligned with your shadow space and also the energy of the here and now. For the reading, I'm going to do a quick reading. And of course, we are going to go in the normal rhythm that I usually tend to go in. So if you know that rhythm, you know it quite well because it does not change. I will be using 2 decks. I will be using the Crow Tarot and also the Starseed Oracle. For the first sign, we are going to go with the fire, and fire signs are Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. And the first card is about definitely trusting the energy around movement, clarity, and also financial gains. This is a time that you're going to want to look at creating movement towards growth and also creating that energy of duality. And I know a lot of people are so concentrated on relationships and the energy of purpose and the energy of movement, but not just the energy of duality with the maybe another individual, but also with the energy of duality with the self, the reflective self of how it is that you see yourself, and allowing that reflection to take place, and also allowing new energy to grow. I would also not just be working on the 3 chakras that I said, but also looking at the solar plex chakra, what it is in the energy of the solar plex that may has been kind of weighing you down or feeling like you just can't get that spark of fire alignment. For the other card, we're going to look at the energy of being centered around the deep love and also the energy around the mother. This could be the mother's milk or the energy of the ancestors. We have to remember that birth is a portal. And when I mean that birth is a portal, it's an entryway. Everything aligned with the universe has some type of portal alignment, some type of entryway, the gateway to new experiences, the gateway to new movements. It's definitely a time for you to reflect on energies around the feminine and also the feminine unions, if that is a mother and daughter relationship, if that is a relationship of siblings, but definitely around the feminine and that energy of getting right with the earth. We have to remember that the earth resembles that mother intention. For the next element, we have the water signs. If you are a water sign, you definitely might be feeling like, oh gosh, and we are in the energy of Pisces. So this is for the Pisces. This is also for the Cancer and the Scorpio. You might be really, really centered on retreating, being reflective, allowing that energy of reflection to move forward, allowing that energy of shadow work to take place. It is definitely a good time for you to disconnect, to get in your hermit space, right? To get in that space of disconnecting, doing your emotional detox, saying goodbye to certain situations. It's like you go hidden, right? Like you're hiding right before spring hits. So you might be in your hibernation space, your hermit space. And that's okay to do the shadow work, to really reflect on that energy, to really see the energy of allowing the light and also the darkness and becoming centered in your own truth. And definitely don't feel like cutting off people is something that shouldn't be done. Cutting off people in certain situations and certain elements that feed us and allow the energy to not grow and allow the energy to kind of as one might say, get root rot because it's overflowing us, is something that we have to do. We are creatures of not just water, but we are also creatures of earth. So if we are drowning in water, if we're drowning in emotions, it's time to take that energy back by not embracing it, by not being stuck in it, by not being drowned out by it. So definitely have that energy aligned with you. We have to remember that your life is really your canvas, that you are the artist, you are the manifester, you are the maker, you are the creator, you are the creative, and you're going to have that accountability. You're going to have that energy where you take in the movement of your powers, you take in the movement of your creation, allowing you to acknowledge where the negativity, some of the self-doubt might be laying away. So it's definitely a good time for the water signs to do that shadow work and allowing the new creation, the new canvas to be slowly painted. For the earth signs, this is definitely a time where you're going to see all the elements of what it is that you are focused on, what it is that you are centered on. It could be the area of achievements, it could be the energy of the shadow, but definitely the energy of transformation is here. The energy of the identity of transformation is speaking in high volumes. I would definitely say that when we are looking at clarity and we are looking at the clarity of within, we have to remember that this is aligned with you being your greatest teacher, you being your greatest I guess you could say successor, you being your greatest mentor. And sometimes that's difficult. And we all find like little sparks, little conversation pieces, little tributes that kind of put us in the right headspace. But it is us who has to continue that headspace. It is us that has to continue that area of being connected to what it is that we are connected to in our reality. If that's in relationships, if that is in our spiritual practice, if that is in career, if that is in protection, if that is in transformation, if that is understanding our own dark elements, that is us learning the wisdom that we have gained from us. Even though the spark of other mentors and other, I guess you could say, leaders or thought processors may come in, it's really us who allows us to see the clarity, to allow the transformation to grow. I would also remember that you are your greatest teacher. And during this time, allow yourself to reflect, allow yourself to teach yourself new things and new vibrations that will really kind of blend it all together and make that purpose just a little bit stronger. You also want to definitely be centered around the elders. Sometimes the elders give great wisdom and give great advice, and you want to share some of your inspiration, but also while you are centered around being your own teacher, by being your own successor, by being your own, as one might say, magician, by being your own center of movement. You also have to remember that you too can receive some reflection from others, but also to share your journey with others. If that is people who are younger than you, if that is people who are learning new things, if that are people who you are centered with that you feel like are maybe a little bit reflective of your old challenges and some of the old things that continue to come up that you have seen, it's time to share your wisdom with others. It is time to share your song, the frequency of sound. I would definitely be centered around not just the earth, but also the air around the earth. So that as well would be not just the root chakra, but another chakra would definitely be the throat chakra, like I said. And when we are centered around the energy of frequency and sound, we're also going to want to acknowledge that we have to listen as well, not just express. But the listening component to the throat chakra sometimes gets overlooked. And to have a really aligned throat chakra is not only can you purposely, intentionally express your core message, but you can also receive the core message from others, and allowing that energy of intuition from the third eye, the reflection to the crown, to all come together with the throat. So definitely take that in mind for the earth signs. For the air signs, if you are an air sign, you are a Aquarius, Libra, Gemini. You're definitely a magician. You're definitely the magic. You're definitely centered in that area, but it's time to balance it. It's time to balance the purpose, allowing the energy to take you in certain situations. I feel a strong drive, especially around not just the throat chakra, but also around the energy of the solar plex, allowing your magic to make you stand out, allowing your magician magic to really hold true to you, to really hold true with that energy of the masculine energy that a lot of the air signs have, to be balanced with the feminine as well. And sometimes as a masculine energy, we don't allow We don't allow the feminine to take that beautiful stance, but this is definitely a time that you're going to want to create your magic after doing your shadow work. So no huge intentions towards this eclipse, but definitely seeing the balance of understanding where the purpose, where the shadow has sometimes been a little bit, maybe making our magic a little bit more dimmer, maybe making our magic a little bit more darker. If you've been centered around a lot of dark magic, and sometimes people hear the term dark magic and they, oh my goodness. But this is definitely a time you're not going to want to hex anybody. You're going to want to do some clearing. I would hold off on the judgment spells. I would hold off on the judgment spells. I would hold off on the energy of justice, the energy of protection. I would hold off on that, and I would be centered around the energy of cleansing, the energy of clearing the shadow, the energy of clearing the space, clearing the darkness, clearing the aura, definitely allowing that balance to take place. Also, for the air signs, we want to understand that we can see our true potential when we allow ourselves to see the true potential. So if you've been feeling like consciously that light has been feeling dim, maybe negative talk, maybe negative passives, maybe negative auras around us, sometimes we get aligned with people who have tremendously auras who reflect around our aura, and that sometimes tends to reflect on us. And when that area of stress has been holding us down, and that negativity, that energy of darkness, of being so pessimistic, has just been like around us, we tend to kind of like feed into that energy. I know, like with me, sometimes when I get really centered around the shadow, I can be in my shadow state for a long time. Like, you know, sometimes I get a little comfortable in that shadow, and I'm like, okay. I need to grow. I need to let the light in. I need to let that light energy in, because the moon energy is so, like, you're just so tied into the vibrations of the darkness. And especially if you were born during darkness, baby girl, it is so hard not to retreat to the wounds, not to retreat to that passageway, not to retreat to that gateway, that portal that we were born into. So look at your chart, see what time you were born. If you were born in the darkness, sometimes we find ourselves retreating back to the darkness, and that's for all the zodiacs, right? But definitely the moon does not fight the eclipse. And I think that's something that we have to understand, is that the moon does not fight the eclipse. It's not like, oh no, don't do this. Don't do that shadow on me, babe. Do not put that shadow on me. The moon embraces the eclipse. It embraces the blood moon energy, and it surrenders to it, knowing that the shadow will pass and the light will return. So you are who you are because of your shadow. You are who you are in your center of darkness because that is who you are. We are two things. We are that energy of duality, that energy of acknowledging our shadow, acknowledging the darkness that we have, not out of spite, not out of hate, not out of self-doubt, but acknowledging that the way that we can move past certain dark situations is by reflection, release, and allowing that reformation and that rebirth to take place. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. Please like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel. Subscribe, leave me a little rating. It helps me move up the podcast ladder. Also, share this with your witchy bestie. Please check out the YouTube. I'm really trying to hit 2,000 followers. I'm like at 1.5, so I'm getting up there. But yes, please send me a little love on the YT. It helps me move up this content creation challenging world. It allows me to bring more content to you guys. Everybody have an amazing day. Bye.